Hello, and again welcome to the Quest for Light podcast. I am your host, J.A. Sterling. As I mentioned before, this is my first podcast attempts, so I'm still learning the ropes. Please in advance excuse any and all mistakes. Thank you. As a reminder from my first podcast, I will be covering my fictional book series, The Quest for Light. This is the overall name of the series. It is a multifaceted story with elements of sci-fi, fantasy, romance, and adventure that takes place in the Edhen galaxy on two main planets, Ontahl'Ya and RandaNar. Today I shall introduce the first book, The Prophecy of the Ancients, and explain the format that I use. You will notice first off that I interchange the words scrolls and books. This is because, if you remember from the first podcast, I referred to an ancient scroll called the Scroll for the Quest of the Light Seekers. This was written in Ontahl'Ya and translated then into English. Thus, I'm honoring the old term scrolls, and this is a series of books, but they're going to be termed scrolls. But I will switch back and forth because for the ease of the reader, and sometimes it's just easier to say books than scrolls. Here's the title, as I mentioned, and it shows you that it is translated, etc. You will also note the term archiver. I use this to further blur the line as author. The intent is to make the story real. This is a real, quote-unquote, ancient artifact that has this story. The scroll is divided into 3 parts called episodes. So the first scroll, The Prophecy of the Ancients, has been further divided into 3 separate sections. Part 1, or Episode 1, is the beginning to an end. Episode 2 is Revise, Reload, and Renew. And then Episode 3 will be the crux of the expectation. Now, the format that I use is a little bit different from normal fictional stories. It is done in what can be referred to as the academic format. Edge-to-edge lines, no indentations, and the space between paragraphs. The intent is to mimic the academic format. Since the story is a translation, and thus the actual events did transpire, I want to give you that feel. So please, when you guys read this book, no screaming at me because it's not in proper fictional format. Here's the acknowledgement page, where you can see not only the mention of the translations, but also that photographs and pictures were supplied by the Royal Archives of both Ontahl'Ya and RandaNar. For inclusion in these scrolls, I decided, as the archiver, to keep the photos, graphics, etc. in the scroll to supplement the culture. Expect lots of pictures. And they could be anything mundane, from a pair of shoes, but there's a reason why it's there, to off-worldly weird things. And it's to help you, the reader, enjoy this culture, and it also breaks up sometimes the heaviness of this book. It gives a little bit of light and a little bit of sometimes comical. So I hope you enjoy the pictures. This is a sample of the header, of the chapter header. You'll notice there's a series of strange marks right underneath. This is Ontahl'Yan. This is the language, and I have developed this font for that language, so you'll be able to write in Ontahl'Yan. The words can be deciphered. It's not just gobbledygook up there. But if you're careful in reading the book, reading the series, you'll be able to decode what those words mean. And I'll give you a basic hint. It's substitution. I didn't go into a lot of grammar or anything on the creation of the language. That's a little bit above my level. I just did simple. In the sample, you'll also notice the term Dracon cycle and then a number. Dracon cycle is the term for the calendar year, whereas we say in the year, whatever. Theirs is Dracon cycle, which can be abbreviated to DC. So it could say Dracon cycle, let's say 641. The calendar, their Ontahl'Ya calendar, was restarted 4,000 Dracon cycles ago. And there's a reason for this, and you'll learn it in the story. Or, excuse me, the true events. Finally, as you can see by this photo, there's a big appendix. And this will be at the end of each and every book, this section. And this section will change from scroll to scroll, depending on what's inside the scroll that you need to know about. This may include diagrams, lineages, glossary, cultural explanations, the planet, calendars, celebrations. It's an additional area for information. So that is all for now. Hopefully this sets the stage for the series and will make a little bit more sense to you. Next time I'll go over projects I am working on, and we'll start developing more into the actual story itself. Till then, may you all find peace in your lives. Excuse me. And thank you for your time. Enjoy